Good morning, everyone. Is the slide visible to you all? Hello, everyone. Okay. So, have you remembered how far we have completed? Most probably, I think we have completed up to this. Is it? Have we completed up to the Biosavart law? Yes.
Yeah, we have video to cover a few bios.
Please be clear. I cannot make out. Have we completed up to this?
No, sir.
Yes.
No, sir.
Okay. So we'll start with this one, right? Okay, fine. So let us try to study about this, but before that, let me just give you some recap. So in the last class, we talked about that whenever a charge is actually moving, okay, so when it is moving, it is going to produce some magnetic field. First, we studied that when a charge is moving in a magnetic field, it experiences a magnetic force. So that is a different concept. Now, when a charge is actually moving, doesn't matter whether we have an electric field or a magnetic. It is going to produce a magnetic field around itself. Okay. Now that magnetic field, last time we have talked about it, and over there I have given you the expression how to find the magnetic field, how to find the strength of the magnetic field as well as the direction of the magnetic field. Okay. So today we will apply this concept in order to see what is the magnetic field that is produced when this charge is going to move inside a conductor, or in other words, we will see how the magnetic field is actually going to be produced when there is a current carrying conductor or current flows. Now, with that concept of a moving charge creating a magnetic field, let us extend it to see how, when a current is going to flow inside a conductor, rather I will say ohmic conductor, how it is going to create a magnetic field. So this is quite a very common concept, because in the your schooling days also you have studied that when we are going to pass current through a conductor, it is going to create a magnetic field. So in your school days, you might have done one experiment in which you were having a source, and you are applying. There is a piece of paper over here, cardboard paper, white cardboard paper, and there is a conductor which is actually going to pass through this paper, and obviously over here you are going to have some resistance, because if we are not connecting it in resistance, then it is simply a short circuit, which is a dangerous thing. So over here what we are doing, we are putting some iron fillings over here, and all of them will be haphazardly placed. They are unevenly placed, and when you will start giving supply to this system, the current is going to flow, and when the current is going to flow, you will see, you will simply tap, gently tap on this cardboard. You will see that the iron fillings were arranging themselves in concentric circles like this. Okay. So this is how you were actually performing this experiment during the schooling days, and you are determining the fact that when current is going to pass through a conductor, it is going to create a magnetic field around itself, and that direction of the magnetic field will be determined by your right hand thumbs rule, in which you will point your thumb of your right hand along the direction of the flow of current, and all the other four fingers will be curling in the direction of the magnetic field. So in this particular case of a conductor carrying current, the magnetic field was actually concentric circles. Okay. So this is something you have studied in your schooling days, how we have to derive, or we have to devise the expression which relates the current to that of the magnetic field in both magnitude as well as direction. Okay. So let us try to see how we are going to derive that. The derivation is quite a simple one. Over here, we will make use of the concept of your drift velocity. Now, as I told you that suppose this is a conductor, and inside this conductor, let us assume that the flow of current is sorry, is because of the flow of these positive charges. Okay. Now previously these positive charges were not moving in a particular direction, and when I am going to apply this conductor, I am going to give a potential difference across this conductor, then the positive charges are going to move in a particular direction because of the electric field inside this conductor. Now, as you all know that the current is definitely going to flow in this direction, and all these positive charges, let us assume that they are going to move from top to the bottom. And you all know that inside a conductor, when the particles start moving, they actually moves at a very slow speed known as the drift velocity. Now, over here, let us try to formulate or let us try to bring out the expression between the magnetic field that is actually going to be created because of the flow of a current. Now let us say over here the current flowing is I, and moreover, as I told you, even if it is an electric field or a magnetic field, we must first ascertain where we are actually going to find the magnetic field or the electric field. So let us say I will have, or I will try to find the magnetic field at a point P. Let us say the point P is located at some position vector of r vector, let us say. Okay, it may be a straight line or it may be slanting, doesn't matter. We'll see about that. Now, as you can see, all these positive charges are going to move at drift velocity. Now, over here, we have already studied that inside this dq is actually n times qa dl. What does this mean? Now, let us say this conductor is actually a conductor with a length of L. So, let us say this conductor is having a length of L, and it is having a cross-sectional area which is a circle, and this cross-sectional area is equal to A, let us say. Okay. So, if we are going to consider this conductor and we are supposed to find what is the magnetic field produced at the point P because of this cylindrical conductor when a current I flows through it. Now, how we are going to do that? Now, we people have already studied that your dB vector over here in this slide, we have studied that your B vector is nothing but mu0 by 4 pi q times of v vector, that is the velocity at which the charges are moving, multiplied with the r vector, that is the position vector of the point where you want to find the magnetic field. So first thing is that since I am going to take a very small portion of this conductor and I have to find the magnetic field, so let us say this very small portion is nothing but in chapter 20, the unit was number of particles by the volume. So over here, if I will multiply this n with that of the volume of this small length of the conductor, then I am going to get is nothing but the number of that small portion of the conductor. So in total, this represents the total number of particles which are actually present in this particular dl portion. Now, if each of these particles inside this, which is equal to n times of QADL. Okay, so I think this is a very simple thing you people can understand. Now, once we know this dq, then we will multiply the velocity. Now, what is the velocity? So I am only talking about the magnitude part, and in the magnitude part, there is something known as sine theta as well. So over here, I will write it as sine theta. Now, what is this sine theta? Sine theta is actually the angle that is made by the vector, or in other words, I can say it is the angle between the, yes.
Sir, your voice is breaking.
Voice is breaking. Okay, okay. No,
Yes.
I am trying. Uh, Still, it is breaking.
Not right now, sir.
Okay, okay. So maybe there is some issue in the network, because yesterday also there was completely no network, neither BSNL nor Jio, and it was a problem with everybody in my locality. Okay, let us. Whenever you are having problem, you just tell me. I will repeat it once again. Okay. So till now we have been talking about this particular equation. Okay, so what is this theta? Now this theta is something very useful. Rather, I will say theta is the angle between the current element and the position vector. Now, what is current element right now? I cannot tell you. Just wait for the next slide. Okay, for the time being, let us forget about this theta. It is simply written as theta over here. Now, over here, in place of this dq, let me replace it with this equation. Okay, so if I'll replace it, then it is going to be modulus of nqa dl. Vd as usual will remain in this place. Sine theta is over here. I'll explain what is this theta divided by r square. Now, if I will make some rearrangement over here in the numerator, that means I will do one thing. I'll just rewrite this numerator in this manner. Let us say I'll write it as n q a v d first, followed by followed by this L sine theta. Okay, so same thing, just a little bit means shuffling of the position of the terms. Okay, now if you could remember, this term is nothing but it is the current through the conductor. Okay, so in place of this, I can simply write it as dB, or a magnitude of dB, a magnetic field, is equal to mu 0 by 4 times your IDL sine theta by r square. Now this is the magnitude part, and obviously if I want to write it in a vectorial form, I have to replace this equation. Now over here, as you can see, I have this, I is a phasor quantity, but dl is a vector quantity. Okay, and some sign is there. That means I have to multiply this dl vector with something which is actually a means what I mean to say is a vector, but it must have a magnitude of 1. For that, what I will do, in order to fulfill the condition, I'll write it as AR cap. Now, why I have written it like this? Because you see, when I will means just expand it, it is nothing but dl, that is the magnitude of dl vector. What is the magnitude of AR vector? It is equal to 1, because it is a unit vector. So dl into 1 sine theta. And what is this theta? Theta is nothing but the angle between your dl vector, rather I will say idl vector, and the position vector of the point where you want to evaluate. Okay, so finally I can say this is the magnitude part, whereas your vectorially it is represented in this manner. Now, in place of this AR cap, I can also write it as R vector by R vector modulus. So if I'll do that, in place of this, I have simply written as R vector by R vector modulus. R vector modulus into R square is becoming R cube. So this is how we have derived this expression. Now let us try to understand the concept of this theta. Now, as I told you, over here, there is something known as your current element. Okay. Now, dl vector, okay, I have told you that your length, area, all of them are vector quantities. So, this length, that is your L, is a vector quantity. So, if L is a vector quantity, then dl is also a vector quantity. Now, to that, I have simply multiplied, or I have a coefficient I. Now, I is a Phasor quantity. So, when a Phasor quantity and this dl vector both are multiplied, so this in total is known as the current element. Now, you see, this in total is known as the current element. Now, obviously, current is not a vector quantity, but dl is a vector quantity. Now, if you will simply write it as dl vector, it indicates, or the name of this is known as your differential length, okay, or infinitesimally small length. But if I will add one I over here, it is known as a current element. Now, why we have a special name for this term I dl vector? It is because this dl vector, now just see, if I have a conductor like this, it is not a straight conductor. Now, I have taken a very small length over here, dl. Now, over here, you cannot tell that over here dl is a vector quantity, because I have told you that dl is just like a point. If it is that, then how can you determine as a vector? So in order to do that, we must give some direction to that. And what is that direction? It is the direction in which the current flows, because current never have a direction. When we talk about the direction of current, I have told you that we tell that the current is flowing from the higher potential to the lower potential, or we may say that the current is flowing from point A to the point B, or I can say the current is flowing in anti-clockwise direction, or I can say the current is moving into the screen, but nowhere I can mention that the current is flowing along the I cap direction or J cap direction or K cap direction. I cannot tell it like that. So because current is a Phasor quantity, it has a different set of rules. So over here, when I am talking about this dl vector, so in order to give the direction of this dl vector, I have to consider the direction in which the current is actually flowing. Okay. For example, if I will tell you that this is a piece of a conductor, and as you can see, this is not at all a straight conductor. Now the current is actually moving in this path in this manner. Okay. So if this is the case, then this is your dl. This portion over here is dl. Now, I dl vector is known as the current element. So this portion in blue color is actually known as your current element. And suppose I want to find what is the magnetic field at the point P over here, which is located at a position vector of r vector. Now, r vector with respect to the current element, because this is the source of the magnetic field, and I am interested to know, because of this source, what is the magnetic field at the point P. Over there, in order to do that, I require a position vector. Now, if I am calculating or doing all this calculation in vectorial terms, then no need of this sine theta or this theta term. But sometimes we also need to find the magnitude part. Okay, so in the question, it is only asked what is the magnitude of the magnetic field. So in that case, you definitely require this theta. So what is this theta? Theta is nothing but the angle between the current element, please remember, current element and the position vector of the point where you want to evaluate the magnetic field. So it is this angle, and since it is a sine term, remember it is oriented from the current direction or from the current element towards the position vector of the point of evaluation. Now, if it were a straight line, then there was no problem. So, suppose this was the current element and this was the point P. So, naturally finding the R vector was quite easy because this dl is simply a point. Now, suppose this is a conductor which is not a straight one. So, in that case, how you are going to find this IDL vector? Okay, current is also changing its direction every time. So how you are going to do that? For that, there is a very simple thing. You have to simply draw a tangent which is going to pass or touch this current element, because I told you your ideal is nothing but a small point, or practically it can be considered as a point. Okay, well and good, we are telling that it is a very small length, but very small length is nothing but practically for all purposes it is just like a point. So in a curve at one single point there will be a tangent. So just draw that tangent, and this tangent is directed in the direction of this IDL vector. So I will write IDL vector over here. So this tangent is actually the vector which is in the direction of your current element, and the angle between this current element in the form of a tangent and the position vector is going to give you a theta. Now I have given a detailed explanation for this, but actually the concept is very simple. So please don't get confused, or please don't get harassed that this is a very complicated thing. Believe me, it is not at all complicated. Okay? Anyone with any sort of doubt? So when we will solve the problems, you will see for yourself that all these things are so easy to understand, so easy to solve, so easy to carry out and analyze. Okay. Anyone with any sort of doubt, please tell me. Okay. So let us now move on to the main portions. Okay. Magnetic field of a straight current carrying conductor. So now we will try to find out with all this concept of Biot-Savart law, with all these expressions in our hand, let us try to ascertain or evaluate what is the magnetic field because of a straight current carrying conductor at any point P. Okay. So let us say in this diagram, as you can see, there is a point P over here. The P point is located in such a way that its coordinates are x, y, 0. Similarly, I am taking a very small current carrying element IDL over here in the red mark, and this is the position vector indicated by means of this line, or rather I will say an arrow with the R vector. Now what do I have to do? I have to evaluate what is the magnetic field at the point P because of this current carrying conductor of length which is extending from -A to A. That is, it is having a length of 2A. So this is the scenario. Now, if you have to solve these types of problem, or you have to go for these types of derivation, what is the first step? The first step is to draw the coordinate axes. So this is the coordinate axis X, this is the coordinate axis Y, and this is the coordinate axis Z. Okay, I have missed out the letter Z over here. So write it down. Now, this is the origin. And let us say the point P is located over here. Its coordinates are given in this manner. Now, as I told you, in order to solve such types of problem, what I need to do? I need to take a very small portion of the conductor. That means I have to take a small current element. Then I have to evaluate the magnetic field created because of this small current element, and once I have determined it, I have to integrate it over the entire length in order to get the total magnetic field. So this is the procedure that we have been following since long. Okay, so let us do it. So we all know that from Biot-Savart law, your B vector is given by mu0 by 4 pi IDL vector cross R vector by R cube. This is what we know. And please don't take this problem lightly, because in the book it is not solved in this manner. It is solved in some other manner. It is solved by you not using vectors, but over here I have used only vectors to solve it. So you will not find this derivation in the book. So please don't take it lightly and go through it. Okay. So I have from Biot-Savart law, I know that dv vector is equal to mu 0 by 4 pi times of idl vector cross r vector by r cube. Okay, so this is what I know. Now, each of these individual things I have to evaluate from this diagram. First is idl vector. Okay, so let us try to find out. Now, in this scenario or in this case, my current is actually flowing along the a y cap direction or along the y-axis. So in that case, over here, I can write, and another thing, here the length dl is nothing but your dy because it is along the y-axis. So your idl vector is now replaced with idy vector. Okay. Now this dy vector is a vector quantity. So let us write it in another way. So dy is the magnitude part and a y cap is indicating the direction. So your idl vector or the current element in this particular example is nothing but I dy ay cap. Next, we have to evaluate or we have to find the expression of this position vector r. Now, I have told you how to find the position vector. From the target, you have to subtract the source coordinates individually. So x minus 0, okay, is x ax cap. 0 minus y ay cap, that is minus ay cap. Then 0 minus 0 az cap is nothing but 0. So here comes r vector is equal to x ax cap minus y ay cap. Now these two things were the only thing that we have to evaluate and put it in this equation. So if we'll put it, you will see that I am getting this figure. So I dy ay cap cross x ax cap minus y ay cap by, now modulus of this r vector is nothing but x square plus y square to the power half. Now we to the raised to the power 3 will make it 3 by 2. Now over here, just have a look. Your this term is individually cross multiplied with this one and this one, distributive property. So if you will do that, you will see that, okay, let us do one thing. Let us take this I outside. Now this dy ay cap is multiplied with x ax cap. So this will result in minus dy x az cap. So I will take this x outside and write it as minus az cap over here. Now ay cap cross multiplied with ay cap is 0. So that term I have not written. So ultimately we come to the conclusion that from this equation it is very clear your dp vector is going to be along the direction of the minus az cap. Now this equation you have to simply solve. Now in order to solve that, I know most of you have forgotten, must have forgotten about this integration. So here you have to make use of integration by trigonometric substitution. So if you will do that, just see, go through the equations, or if you are having a pen and paper along with you, just try to solve it. Don't worry, just see it and solve it, but do it by yourself. I'm giving you some time, do it. Once you have done, please tell me whether you are getting the last figure or not. Okay, have you done it? Still in the process of doing. Okay, take your time. Have you done the calculation? Hey, are you doing or not? Just sitting idle. Okay. So I hope you must have got the answer this much. Or is there anyone who is having any problem? Am I audible? Am I audible or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then why you are all not responding? Okay, so once you have done this, now you will get your B vector is equal to mu 0 times I by 4 pi x, and this is the expression of the magnetic field at the point P. Now just imagine that if this is a very long line, okay. Now when we talk about a very long line, what we actually mean is that if the total length is very much greater than that of the point radial distance between the point of evaluation and the conductor. So in that case, your x is going to be very much small in comparison to the length of the line. So in that case, what we can do is that we can simply neglect this. We can neglect this a, that is over here. As you can see, when x is very much less than that of your a, then over here what we can do is that in place of this we will write it as 0, because your y is equal to a square and this portion becomes 0. So if that is the case, then you can see that this is a square root over, which is nothing but a. So this a and this a will cancel out. This 2 will also cancel out over here, and this equation will finally become this much. Okay. So B vector is equal to mu 0 I by 4 pi x, What is x? It is the radial distance from the conductor to the point of evaluation. So this is how we are going to evaluate the magnetic field due to a straight conductor, whether it is a finite conductor or it is an infinite conductor. Okay, now let us talk about forces between parallel conductors. Okay, now if you will see outside, you will find that on the poles there are many conductors which are moving. Now suppose this is a pole, usually what you will see, around 5 number of conductors placed like this. So 1, 2, 3, and this may be the fourth one, and this may be another one. Usually what happens, on the pole there are 5 number of conductors which are moving in this way, and all of them are having some distance between them. Now do you know why or what are these 5 number of wires? Usually these belongs to the 3 phases: R phase, Y phase, B phase. Then we have the neutral wire, and finally we have something known as the street light phase. Street light phase. So usually on the poles you will find this 5 number of conductors running along the locality. And believe me, in between these conductors, when all of them are carrying some current, then there is some force of repulsion or attraction among them. Okay, now we'll try to see under what condition there will be some force between the conductors, why there will be some force, and whether that force will be attractive in nature or repulsive in nature. So we'll talk about that.
Sir, why they
Yes.
are called R, Y, and B?
Okay, let me tell
Not
you.
simply A, B, and C.
Yes, not.
A, B, and C.
Okay. Theoretically, in many books, it is written as ABC, but the real in engineering practice, we always use the letter RYB because R indicates the red color, yellow indicates the Y indicates the yellow color, and B indicates the blue color. So if you will minutely see any control room, if you have ever visited or you will visit any time, and you will see a 3-phase connection, you will see that all of these 3 wires, all of them are having this color code. One of them must be the red color. Usually the one on the right will be the red color, followed by the yellow color wire, followed by the blue color wire. So this is the color code we people make use, particularly electrical people make use of this in order to differentiate the phases. And the last one is the neutral, and this neutral is usually colored in black. Next, we have something known as the earthing wire. Earthing wire are usually colored in green color or brown color. So we may definitely make use of this color code in order to distinguish the different phases. Okay, got it?
Sir, and in some YouTube video, I saw that there was some other wire for lightning, to handle lightning so that lightning doesn't strike on the wire. It
Okay,
will strike
that is
on
known as the
that
ground wire.
specific.
That is known as the ground wire. Okay, let me tell you such a scenario. Now these things I am talking about are low voltage lines, particularly those lines which are carrying very high amount of power, maybe transmission lines. So you will see big towers like this. So these towers, on these towers you will have some insulators on the both sides, and they will be carrying the conductors like this. Okay, and on top of this there is a wire which moves like this, and this wire is known as the ground wire, and it is used for the protection of these 2 wires against lightning, because when lightning strikes on this conductor, it will introduce a very high voltage as well as current in the system, which is very detrimental to the condition of the electrical equipments. For that reason, we make use of this ground wire. Now, why it is known as ground wire and how it is going to protect? Very simple thing. Now, just this is a side view. If I will show you on the front view, suppose this is conductor 1, this is conductor 2, and this is the ground wire. It is going to look something like this. This is the ground wire, this is your conductor 1, and this is your conductor 2. And this ground wire is actually going to give an umbrella protection or a cone of protection. This angle will be determined by the thickness or the cross-sectional area of this ground conductor. The more it is, the more the area will be covered. Now what happens, usually this ground wire is grounded to the earth. Now always remember that this current has a very unique property, that it always tries to flow in the least possible resistive path. Now obviously this conductor must be connected to some machine, maybe a transformer, maybe a generator, which are going to have a very high value of resistance or impedance. Whereas this ground wire is directly connected to the ground, and it is connected in such a way that the resistance is something around 0.1 ohms, which may be around a million times less than the resistance on this path. So naturally, as I told you, current always prefers the least resistant path. So the lightning will, even though it is uneven in nature, it is always looking for a path which is going to have the least resistance. So naturally it will strike this one on the top. And secondly, the positioning of this ground wire is always at the top, because from the sky, if any lightning will come, it will first strike this ground wire. And even if it is directed towards this conductor, still then it will change its course to strike to this ground wire, because I told you that every time current, whether it is displacement current, convection current, or a conduction current, it is going to prefer the least resistant path. I hope you have got the answer. Okay. Now let us concentrate on what is the force between two parallel conductors. So particularly this section is very useful for electrical students, because they will be using this concept in order to design the transmission and distribution system, no doubt. So we have something known as bundled conductor, and over there you have to make calculation for this forces and all this stuff. But still then, let me give you some idea. Now when two straight parallel conductors are carrying current, okay, maybe they are carrying current in the same direction or opposite direction. Forget about the direction. If two parallel conductors are carrying current and they are separated by some fixed distance, then obviously they are going to give out forces. That means this conductor A carrying a current I is going to give a force or produce a force on this conductor B, which is carrying a current I dash. Similarly, this conductor is also going to apply a force on the conductor A. So both these conductors are actually going to have an interaction of forces. Now, if the forces are attractive, obviously the two conductors will try to come close to each other. If the force is repulsive, they will try to move away from each other. Now let me make it clear. When the two conductors are carrying current in the same direction, the force is attractive. Now why is it so? Now you see, suppose this is one conductor, and because of right hand thumb rule, you are seeing that the direction of the magnetic field is clockwise. Similarly, this one is also carrying a current in the same direction. So over here also the magnetic field is also in the same direction, that is clockwise. Now when both of them are having the same direction, obviously this one and this one will be attractive. Now suppose, let us say, so there is another conductor over here which is carrying current in the opposite direction. So naturally the magnetic field will be in the anti-clockwise direction, and in this case there will be a force of repulsion. So let us try to see. Now let us say, because of the current flowing in the conductor A, that is I, it produces a magnetic field. We have already studied that if there is a conductor carrying a current, it is going to produce a magnetic field. And that magnetic field is given by mu0I by 2 pi r. What is r? It is the distance between the two conductors. Just right now we have studied about it. Just have a look. Mu0I by 2 pi r. So that is the same thing over here. Similarly, the magnetic field produced by this right hand conductor is B dash, let us say, and it is equal to mu 0 I dash by 2 pi r. Now, usually in engineering or practical cases, we always talk about force per unit length. Now, obviously, all these things are more useful for electrical students and engineering. So when we are talking about resistance, inductance, capacitance, obviously you talk it resistance in ohms, but electrical people, they always use the resistance per kilometer. Similarly, your force in the conductors or on the adjacent conductors are always evaluated on the basis of force per length. So if we will do that, now just let us have a look at the next statement. Now, suppose I will consider the force on this conductor B. Okay, let us try to find out what is the force on the conductor B. Now, the force acting on this conductor B is given by the current that it is carrying multiplied by the cross product of B vector and L vector. Now, this conductor B is carrying a current of I dash. So, I dash whole into B vector cross L vector. Now, B vector is the field created by that of your A. Always remember that the force on parallel conductors is because of the current in the conductor and the magnetic field of the adjacent conductor. Okay. So over here, the current in the right hand conductor is I vector, and the magnetic field because of the adjacent conductor is B. So in place of this B, I will write mu 0 I by 2 pi r. So if I'll write it and then multiply L, then I'm going to get this figure. Now, as I told you, rather than calling force, we call it as force per unit length. So let us take this L under to this F. So if I do that, what I am getting is mu 0 I dash by 2 pi r. Similarly, if I will make the similar approach for the left hand conductor, I will also be getting this figure. Why? Because the force on the conductor on the left is because of the current carried by that same conductor and the magnetic field produced by the adjacent conductor. So this conductor is carrying a current I. The magnetic field because of this other adjacent conductor is B dash, and that is equal to mu 0 I dash by 2 pi r multiplied with L. Now let us take this L under to this F. So you are going to get the figure F by L is equal to mu 0 I dash by 2 pi r. Now a very interesting thing that you can see is that in both the cases the expression of the force is same. That means each of these conductors are going to exert a force, maybe attractive or maybe repulsive, which is equal to both or equal to each other. Now there is a statement, if you can just remember it, if the conductors carry current in the same direction, the force is attractive. If the conductors carry current in opposite direction, this is repulsive. This is a very common thing you people already know in your school days. Now let us move on to the next slide. Okay, magnetic field due to a circular current loop. Okay, so till now we studied about the Biot-Savart law, and from Biot-Savart law we came to the idea that how B vector or the magnetic field strength is related to the current, and with that concept we found out the magnetic field due to a straight conductor. And next we will find out what is the magnetic field due to a circular current carrying loop. So let us try to find out. Just have a look. So here I am basically going to have a loop like this. Loop is nothing but it is going to have or it is a single loop which is in the shape, which is in the shape of a ring. To one end, the current is entering, and from the other end, it is coming out. Now, the same thing with some little approximation, I have just redrawn it over here. So this is the bevel view, and this is the front view. Okay. So as I told you that we will make use of this Biot-Savart law in order to find the magnetic field at the point P. Okay. Now, how to do that? When we are trying to derive that for the straight line, what we did? We took a very small portion of the length of the conductor and we evaluated the magnetic field and then we integrated it over the entire length. The same concept will also be applied over here. The method is always the same. Now what we will do? We will take a very small portion of the loop over here. And I have told you, even when we are solving the problems in electric field, over there I told you I will always prefer the position to be here. I can no doubt I can take the DL portion over here. I can take it over here, doesn't matter. Wherever you take, you will get the same answer. But cunningly or wisely, I took the position of this DL vector over here. Now why is it so? It is because if I am going to prefer it at this position, the coordinates will be very simple. The coordinate of this current element is 0, A 0. So over here, if I would have taken it over here, then you would have the X coordinate, the Y coordinate, as well as the Z coordinate. So naturally, the calculation will be very complicated. So in order to ease the calculation and use the concept of symmetry and all this thing, we should prefer the magnetic, the position of the source to be somewhere over here. Second thing, as I told you that this is your current element and this current element is nothing but IDL vector. Now DL vector is nothing but infinitesimally small length of the ring. And what is that? That is practically for all purposes is just a point. Since it is a point, I have given the coordinates as 0, A 0. So first what we have to do, we have to evaluate this current element. Next we have to evaluate this R vector. So once we do that, we'll just put it in this equation and we'll carry out our calculations to find out. So over here, first thing is IDL vector. Now as you can see that your IDL vector is actually moving in this direction. So over here also, if we will see, then it is moving in this direction. That means it is actually moving in the direction along this Z axis. For that purpose, I have replaced this DL with that of your DZ, and since DL is a vector, I have indicated the direction by means of AZ cap. Next comes your R vector. Now what is this R vector? R vector is nothing but the position vector of the point where I want to evaluate the magnetic field because of the current element. So how to find this R vector? Simple, just coordinate by coordinate subtract from the target from the source, from the source from the target. So x minus 0, ax cap, 0 minus a, that is minus ay cap, 0 minus 0, that is 0 az cap. So finally, I have evaluated all these things from the diagram. So once I have done this, now let us put it in this equation. So when I am going to put it in this equation, what I am going to get? Mu 0 by 4 pi, 0 to, now you see, you all know the total length of this conductor, which is in the form of a ring, is equal to nothing but the circumference. And what is the formula for circumference? 2 pi r, and r over here is nothing but a. So 2 pi a is written as the upper limit. Now, so let us now try to evaluate this one. Now this term will be multiplied with this one as well as this one as a cross product by using distributive law. So if I will do this, what I am going to get? Ix dz, az cap, ay cap. When cross multiplied, will give you ay cap. So over here I have written Ix dz, ay cap. Now look over here. Again, this one is going to be multiplied with this as a cross product. So if I do that, I am going to get plus Ia dz ax cap. Why? Because az cap multiplied with ay cap is actually minus ax cap. So there is a minus over here. So ultimately I got it as plus Ia dz ax cap. Now let us look at this diagram once again and see Now, if we are having a current element over here, you are actually getting a magnetic field in this direction. Now, this one will be because you know this one is going to be 90 degree. So this one is going to be 90 degrees. So this one is going to be okay. Forget about that. At least we come to know that this dB vector will be having two components. One along the horizontal component, the other one is the vertical component. Now just diametrically opposite I will take. Suppose I will take the dl vector over here and I will try to evaluate it in the same way, then I will get the b vector over here. And it's this way, if I'll decompose it into its vertical and horizontal component, you will see I am getting the vertical component in this way. So this one and this one are simply going to cancel out each other because of the symmetry. So it is only the x components, or rather I will say a x cap components, which are actually going to add up. So over here, all this term is simply going to be equal to 0, or we are not going to consider this one because this element, because of the symmetry, is going to cancel out each other's effect. So ultimately what I am going to get is mu 0 by 4 pi integrated from 0 to 2 pi, and the terms are ia dz by x square plus a square to the power 3 by 2 a x cap. So in place of this dz, I will simply put 2 pi a. So if I will put it, then the entire equation, or it will be evaluated to this much. Okay. And if I will write it in a little bit refined manner, I am going to see, just see, 2 pi and this 4 pi will get cancelled out, and ultimately it will be a 2 over here followed by mu 0 I a square x square plus a square 3 pi 2 a x cap. Okay, so this is how we have derived it. And another, okay, today it's already time, I should not cross my limit. So in the next class, that is on Wednesday, we'll show some more aspect on this.
Good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Your class is over, na? Previous class?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you get the question for the assignment?
No circular motion.
Okay, so we are discussing circular linked list. Oh, okay. We are doing programming, I think, isn't it?